For over 20 years, the Morris Museum has stewarded the Guinness Collection of over 720 instruments and automata. More than a group of objects, the collection offers a comprehensive look at 2.5 centuries of on-demand entertainment, technological innovation, and bench-crafted works of art.
The Morris Museum as a cultural institution plays a central role in our community. It really provides a tremendous amount of education and arts opportunity for the people who live here.
One of the major questions we get is, how did Mr. Guinness land on mechanical music or automata to collect? And it all sort of has an origin in basically two different pieces. One, a very simple, average Swiss musical box, cylinder music box, that his mother gave him when he was about 7 years old. And as a child, it fascinated him. More as a teenager, his mother brought him into a flagship store of Breguet, the Swiss watch manufacturer, that was right in Paris, France, and said it was his birthday or holiday again, and said, pick out what you want for a present. And instead of picking out a fine Breguet timepiece, he picked out of the cabinet a small pop-up mechanical singing bird. So you might say that was his first automata.
After that first purchase, his collection grew. Murtogh's grandfather created the famous brewery empire. His father devoted himself to public service. Supported by the Guinness family's resources, political influence, and patronage of the arts, he indulged in his lifelong passion. In 2003, after a competitive process, the Morris Museum was given the collection with the mandate to keep these objects not only working, but in the public eye internationally.
You know, clearly the law firm wanted the best interests of the family, because there were Guinnesses back in England and Ireland that were interested in what was going to happen to this particular member of the family's collection. So they wanted to make sure that it would go to a museum that A, would keep it in its entirety, B, would use it.
Daily demonstrations have delighted visitors, school groups, and tourists for nearly 20 years. The collection has been the foundation for dozens of temporary and rotating exhibitions and public programs.
We're dealing with a globally significant collection that was created in a completely analog world. And the museum fortuitously received the gift precisely at the moment that the iPhone was being invented, that we were shifting from a society based on real-life experiences to ones that were virtually based. And the implications that has for a collection of this caliber are myriad. There's an interesting history here already of putting the collection into the digital realm, whether it's through YouTube videos, showing the objects being demonstrated, or talk-alongs about their technical construction. I'm really excited about the prospect of opening up the availability of these collections to a world audience through the web.
I'd like to take a moment to talk about the many ways our collection inspires our young visitors. Daily demonstrations at 2 o'clock in the Guinness Gallery, starting in the workshop area, expose these young visitors to ways in which they can, too, participate in the invention of mechanical music.
So I was inspired by the entire concept of Morris Museum's Guinness Collection. I thought that the idea that a person could be transported to a different story or to a different place through a music box was fascinating, especially because they were so prevalent in a time where you couldn't travel in the same way that you can now. So this idea of transcendence through these objects was really interesting to me.
How do we keep hundreds of mechanical objects running like clockwork for 20 years?
As conservator for the Guinness Collection, I make sure that the instruments themselves, especially the ones that are on permanent exhibit, are functioning properly. So between about 750 objects, there's always work to be done on the collection in one aspect or another.
Very recently, I was advising a fantastic team where they were working on what they called the GemBot. The GemBot entailed taking a commercially available djembe, which is an African goblet drum, and mechanizing it with a robotic system to perform music on that instrument. So the team was elated to have the inspiration from the Guinness Collection, and it really led towards great technical and cultural outcomes for their project.
As Murtogh Guinness reminisces, let me acknowledge the deep satisfaction that the gathering of this collection has afforded me, a satisfaction all the richer for having been shared with fellow enthusiasts.
Over the last few years, the Morris Museum has been focusing on rebuilding our infrastructure. Now we're starting to refocus on rebuilding our programming. We're focusing on performing arts, putting on new exciting programming in the Bickford Theater. We're focusing on arts, putting on exciting exhibitions in our galleries. And we're focusing on coming up with new education programs that can excite our students and their parents and their grandparents and bringing their children and grandchildren here to the Morris Museum. The Morris Museum has always been a bulwark of our community, both Morristown, Morris County, and northern New Jersey. What we're looking at is becoming even more important to all the people that we serve.
You know, each generation needs to look afresh at telling the story of history, telling the story of objects. And in this new age that we've entered, an age of AI, an age of Instagram, it's almost like we have to step back and listen to what the world wants us to do with these incredible objects in our care. And that's true about the Guinness Collection. It's true about all the global cultural property in our care here at the Morris Museum.